Welcome to the Reconnection Club podcast, the show that helps parents heal troubled relationships with their adult sons and daughters. I'm your host, psychotherapist Tina Gilbertson. Each week, I'll offer you compassion, clarity, and personal development tips designed to help you reconnect, not only with your child, but with yourself. Now let's get started. If you've sent a heartfelt apology to your estranged adult child and heard nothing but crickets in response, you're not alone. You may have put your heart out there and waited with diminishing hope for a reply, only to conclude that your apology didn't work because your child didn't respond. Now, it's true that if you write to your child and don't get a response, it might be that your child didn't like or didn't appreciate or didn't agree with what you wrote, and their silence indicates that lack of success of your message. But one of the most important ideas for parents to grasp during estrangement is that a response is not the only measure of success. Because the fact is, estranged adult children don't necessarily respond even to the perfect letter from a parent. There are other reasons besides failure why you might not hear back, especially if what you sent was wonderful. Let me tell you 3 reasons why you might not get a response to something you wrote that was actually a smash hit with your child. And in sharing these, I hope to convince you that a lack of response is not necessarily a lack of success. First of all, they may not know how to respond. You know better than anyone that it takes tremendous mental energy to figure out what to say to someone you're estranged from. Think about what it took for you to compose what you sent. It's not quick or easy, this type of communication. And assuming that you wrote a moving and effective letter, your child may simply be speechless in the face of that. Speechless is very different from disapproving, uncaring, angry, or dissatisfied. Speechless means you might just not get a response to a truly successful letter because it's just too hard for your child to figure out what to say back to you. Or because what you sent didn't ask for or require a response. Just because your child isn't taking the time to figure out what to say back to you, it doesn't mean your letter didn't have a positive impact. Secondly, your child may not trust this new you that showed up in your letter. They may say to themselves, well, even a broken clock is right twice a day. Maybe my parent just happened to get this one right this time. They want to see if it sticks. They don't want to be taken in by a really good letter only to find that it was a fluke and that whatever they hoped could change between you hasn't really changed. So maybe they're taking a wait-and-see approach. In this case, too, it means your letter was successful because it had a positive impact rather than a negative one. A third reason you might not get any reply to a successful letter is your child may simply not be ready to reconcile yet. Not ready is a real thing. If you were to ask them, they might say that they have more work to do on themselves first. Or their hands may be full with another relationship, or they may have many responsibilities at the moment, and not enough emotional resources to tackle the work of reconciling, because it does take work. If they say they're not ready, trust that their reasons are legitimate. Just as you are the best judge of your own readiness to show up in a different way for your child or children, they are the best judges of their own readiness to reconcile. Those are 3 reasons your child may not respond to even a really good letter. Either they don't know what to say, they're not sure they can trust what you wrote, or they're simply not ready to move forward yet. So getting a response from your child to what you write is not the only measure of success. Don't hang on a response to find out how you did. That puts too much focus on an unreliable outcome and not enough on doing the work of writing an effective letter to begin with. The better alternative is to know exactly how good your letter is before you send it. Measure your success by whether you offer your child emotional visibility, validation, empathy, understanding, or whatever you've been able to determine is needed from you in your relationship. That's the appropriate measure of the success of anything you send. Does it hit the benchmarks that you've established as needed to reach your child? Judge what you write by your own standards before you send it. Get input from people you trust. Then be satisfied that you made a good investment in your relationship with your child, regardless of whether you receive a response. Like most investments, it probably won't pay out immediately, but it does feel good to have something out there that you know is creating value over time. As an example of knowing that what you're sending is good, if it's an apology you're sending, it should have 4 essential ingredients: accountability, specificity, empathy, and remorse. Take the Reconnection Club's apology course and make sure you've covered your bases and avoided common mistakes. I'll put a link to that course in the show notes at reconnectionclub.com/87. If you're not a member, you won't be able to access the entire course, but you can take the first lesson, and you will get a lot out of just doing that, I promise you. But how will you know in general what your letters need to contain in order to be successful? Use the resources for parents in my book, Reconnecting with Your Estranged Adult Child, and in this podcast, and inside our online school for parents at reconnectionclub.com. Even if you aren't sure today what's needed for repair, if you're feeling lost and confused, you can gain clarity on that all-important question. With sufficient time, reflection, and assistance, you will send more effective messages than if you just shoot from the hip. Even if you don't get a response to something you send, with proper preparation, you will know in advance that what you sent at least did more good than harm. So don't let a lack of response determine how you feel about what you put out there. Make it your business to learn what's needed for your relationship to heal and thrive so that everything you send is a foregone success. Until next time, remember that you are a loving, lovable, and still growing human being. So please take good care of yourself. Bye for now. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Reconnection Club podcast, I invite you to check out reconnectionclub.com. The Reconnection Club is for parents at any stage of estrangement from their adult, child, or children. So whether you've just realized there's trouble between you, you've been living with estrangement for years, or you're newly reconciled but still walking on eggshells, the Reconnection Club is your essential resource for information, support, and continued personal growth. With our courses and workshops, expert interviews, monthly Q&A calls, and a friendly, active community, the Reconnection Club is a wonderful place to be for anyone suffering the pain of estrangement from an adult, child, or children. So check it out at reconnectionclub.com.